Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another Midnight Mirage School of Higher Learning Classic. And just want to give you a salute from the entire Red State family. Hopefully everything has been positive in your personal and private life. So in this video, basically, we want to sit down and have a wisdom session where I will just share some things with you that I've learned and acquired from my life experience being on this planet and Earth. And some of the things that, that I've learned and some of the things I've perceived as well. And you can take this information and sit back and contemplate on it in your own free time and use it how you may see fit. All right. So a couple of videos back, I talked about how a lot of this life, you're going to be the one on the field. And although there may be people that love and support you, you're going to have to be the one to get the job done. And I gave the example of Arthur Blank, who is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. And in that basic analogy, what it was this in a summary. Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, he's responsible for, of course, paying the players. He's responsible for constructing the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that they play in. He's responsible for, of course, paying the concession people. He's responsible for doing a lot of the administrative background creative work, those creative processes, to where now when Sunday comes and it's time for the players to play, everything is set up. The fans are there. The players got the jerseys. Everything is on go. Everything is ready to start. But once the players get on the field, Arthur Blank has to sit in the stands and he's observing the football game. So he doesn't participate in it. He's part of the creative process, but he doesn't participate in the game. And although he may want the Falcons to win, the Falcons have to get on the field and actually perform and behave the right way. They have to have been training. So when they get on the field, they can have the desired success and outcome. So in that same example for Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons, you have the Almighty Creator or God or Most High or whatever you want to call it that serves the same role, the same function. All right. So when we think of the creation or the material world, the material universe, what we can see, there is something responsible for it. I like to call it the Almighty. And the Almighty is responsible for, of course, making sure that the sun and the moon rises, every day, making sure that we have oxygen, etc. There are a lot of things that are part of the natural environment that the Almighty is responsible for. But when it comes to our own individual personal life, that is us on the football field, and we have to get the job done. All right. The Almighty, of course, wants success for all living organisms. But, a lot of us have free will, and ultimately that's going to be up to us. All right. That's one of the key principles of free will, that if you want to succeed, you'll succeed. And if you want to be a failure, you can be a failure. All right. So let's take that. And then now let's also talk about how in the prior video, we mentioned the fear adrenaline and how you got to learn how to be calm in high stress level environments and situations, because when you remain calm, this will help you, of course, receive all the information you're supposed to receive. And once you have all the information and you assess it, then you can make the proper choice. You can be efficient, you can be effective, and you can be proficient. All right. But you can't do this if you're in a state of panic. So being able to be calm and level minded, when things are going on, maybe you got a lot of bills, maybe, one of your children is sick. It could be something that you're going through, but you got to know how to stay calm. Learn how to control your blood pressure, learn how to be able to control even your heart tempo, because a lot of the times when the adrenaline is rushing, you're in a fight or flight situation, you feel like your survival, is being challenged right now. Your heart starts beating fast. You got to learn how to calm your heart rate. All right. So as I sat back and I pondered on this phenomenon that the human being has fear, the human being has fear. The human being has limitations, because when I say the human being, I mean the man and woman, the male and the female, all ethnicities, all nationalities, all weights, all heights, all financial situations. So it doesn't really matter. If you are a living organism on this planet called a human being, you are subject to what I'm talking about, which is the fear adrenaline, which is having limitations, which is maybe possibly the fear of death, the fear of loss, the fear of losing loved ones, not having things in abundance. OK, because we need things, natural resources and some man-made resources, but nevertheless, we're in a perpetual state of need. All right. And also too, like how we have a finite time period on this earth. So in other words, the human being is lacking when it comes to certain things. All right. So on one hand, you have the human being that's lacking, but on the other hand, the Almighty is the infinite. All right. The Almighty needs no support. The Almighty is perfect. All right. The Almighty has no fears. The Almighty has no competition, no adversary. All right. So the Almighty doesn't have to have fear. All right. Because the Almighty is not in a fear-like circumstance. So when I took all that information, what you will come to the conclusion is that, man, when it comes to the idea of faith, for my time period that I've been on this earth, the conclusion I come to as I'm sitting here today making this video, and I've come to this conclusion a while back, but I guess now that I'm delivering this to you all and expressing it to you, is that the Almighty doesn't need our faith. Believe it or not, it's actually the complete opposite. The Almighty, or the Creator, the divine, has faith in us because the Almighty knows we have fear. The Almighty knows that we are prone to use our free will, probably in an inappropriate or an incorrect way. The Almighty knows that we have the potential to make mistakes. The Almighty knows that we can get stressed out. The Almighty knows we can get tired. The Almighty knows that you have a lot of bills. You have things you got to pay for, but you may not have quick access to money or finances or financial instruments. So the Most High Almighty is all knowing, okay, knows all. The Almighty knows that we don't know the future. We don't know how things turn out for us. We don't know if things that we think are going to be bad are going to be good or vice versa. So in the wisdom of the Almighty, knowing this, Almighty knows that the human being, the man and woman on the earth, they're in a very serious situation. Yes, they are on earth to evolve spiritually, but the process, a lot of them can be damaged in that process. And a lot of them, are going to need a lot of courage. They're going to need a lot of support. And they're going to need a lot of power, a lot of encouragement. They're going to need a lot of tenacity. They're going to need power, basically. So I'm not saying that, I've had no conversation with God or anything like that. But let's just take the church system and the way that they try to make you think that you got to have faith in God, that God is going to do something for you. Or you got to have faith in God, that God is going to come through for you, or something along those lines. The truth is that, and this may be just my understanding, so I don't want to, you can have your own. But the Almighty Creator, everything was already put in place at the dawn of creation, meaning not only the creation of the universe, but even the different potential realities when it comes to all living organisms. All this was set at the dawn of creation. So you know how you read in the Old Testament in Genesis, they talk about the 7 days of creation or the 6 days of creation. And it starts where, of course, there's the complete darkness, where there's a void, and it was formless. All right. And by the seventh day, you have a full creation. So what I'm telling you is that the Almighty did all this work at the dawn of creation. Literally, the Almighty has done all its work. So anything that you could have prayed for, anything that you could ask for or desire, it already exists in a potential reality. But we have to perform, behave, and make certain choices, so we'll end up in these desired realities that we want. Okay. So you got to remember, there's a reality that exists if you do the right thing, and there's a reality that exists if you don't, So I'll give you an example, right? So let's take Len Bias. Len Bias was a basketball player for Maryland. I think he played like power forward or small forward in the early to mid 80s. And, he was projected to be basically a dominant NBA player, and he was going to be a contemporary of Michael Jordan. As a matter of fact, Len Bias and Michael Jordan, they played each other in college from when Jordan was at UNC and he was at Maryland. And I think it was either projected or maybe Len Bias had gotten drafted by the Boston Celtics. So he was going to be going to a good team in the Eastern Conference. Of course, Jordan went to Chicago. So there were going to be a lot of battles between Len Bias And not only the Detroit Pistons, who end up, challenging the Boston, but the Chicago Bulls, who challenged them in the late 80s, early 90s. So, the Eastern Conference would have had a different landscape. But because Len Bias, and also let me say this too, and Len Bias would have won multiple championships as well. Because remember, he would have been drafted on a team where Larry Bird and the Celtics was, handling business, right? So there was a reality set potentially where Len Bias was going to be this basically a dominant basketball champion. And throughout history, Jordan was going to still be a great player regardless. But who knows how NBA history would have been in the late 80s and 90s had Len Bias been on the Boston Celtics and Jordan was on the Bulls. All right. But and that was a potential reality. But what ended up happening was that, unfortunately, Len Bias engaged in drug usage, and he ended up, losing his life from that. And that was the actual reality that happened. So you can go and look up the story about Len Bias. They got a good 30 for 30 that came on ESPN, Sports Center. And it's just plenty of stories about it. But what I'm saying is that the Most High at the dawn of creation already had these potential realities set up for Len Bias. At the dawn of creation, the reality of him being that multiple NBA champion already existed. But it also was a reality that existed if, he made other certain type of choices that were maybe not parallel with the reality of being that NBA champion, then things may not work out like that for him. And we obviously see what happened. So Len Bias couldn't have afforded really to make that choice he made. So I'm saying all that to say, these potential realities, they exist already for all of us, but depending on the choices we make will determine what outcome we have in this life. So the Almighty knows that we are in a great master level chess game, and the Almighty has faith in us that we will be courageous. The Almighty has faith in us that we will be patient. The Almighty has faith in us that we will allow people to help us and support us on this journey, and that humanity can work together so we could all reach our objectives and make each other's lives easier. That's the whole point of human beings working together, really, regardless of what the ethnicity, nationality, or financial status is. See, when human beings work together, you're going to be able to achieve much more. You see? So, but from just divisions of religion, race, and a lot of other things, the Almighty knows that that's going to cause a lot of rifts, let's say, in what the potential reality could be. Because look at the world we live in today. It's a lot of warfare going on right now, a lot of economic hardships, etc. So, in other words, the Almighty knows that the man and a woman, they got a powerful, predicament that they're in. And I have faith that they'll make it, because the Almighty does not need our faith. The Almighty is already perfect. The Almighty is not seeking or wanting anything. The Almighty is already in abundance. I could take myself sitting here right now. Yes, like there are things that I'm seeking and things that I want. I want to continue to grow my businesses, continue to grow my financial empire, and other things that I want to do. There is nothing that the Almighty wants to do. You see what I'm saying? So what it is that the Almighty has faith in us. The Almighty does not need our faith. Our faith is weak because we're weak. You know what I'm saying? We have like inconsistencies. We're hypocrites. You know what I'm saying? When times are going good for us, our attitudes are better. But when times get tough, we get moody. You know what I'm saying? Our emotions affect us. We may not be as friendly. When the money coming in, you know what I'm saying? You sharing with everybody, but when the money tight, and all of a sudden, you're trying to, eliminate everybody out your life. So why would the Almighty need the faith of a people like that, or an organism like that? That's very, very arrogant and egotistical for us to think that, we're that important. The truth is that, no, we need the Almighty. And I'm not saying that it may not be something mutual, because obviously there is something maybe that the Almighty receives from this creative process going on. So I'm not saying that, but let's just be real. We need the Most High way more than the Most High need us. Like, let's just keep this shit a G now. Let's keep this shit G now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna keep it funky. Like, the Almighty don't need us like we need him, bro. Like, let's just keep it real. So the truth is that these religious institutions and a lot of these churches in the so-called black community and other communities, but they're, to me, they're misleading the people. No, no, no. The Almighty has faith in you because you're the one in the test. You're the one with the limitations. You're the one with the fear and the anxiety and the stress, the depression. The Almighty doesn't have none of that. God doesn't have that stuff. So just kind of think about that. And the other thing I want to talk about is this, and this is more of like a spiritual phenomenon and concept we're going to get into right here. But, I was talking to my mother recently about a program that she saw, a science program on like black holes in space and like interdimensional travel. Like she's into that type of stuff, right? So, me and her talk about that a lot. We'll watch The Twilight Zone together. We watch Star Trek. A lot of my sci-fi type interest really, came from her and watching that stuff with her when I was growing up. And recently she was talking about, just the black holes in the inner dimension and how, of course, the black hole absorbs all light. And whatever goes through the black hole, it strips away all the external properties. And only the minute, we'll say, atomic spiritual element is allowed to pass through the black hole. And it made me think about the movie Interstellar that came out in, I want to say maybe it was 2014 or 2015, which to me is one of the greatest movies that merges the scientific and the spiritual phenomenon or reality. So to me, Interstellar is one of the greatest movies that actually links the spiritual and the scientific in a healthy way, for us to get at least somewhat of an understanding. Because trust me, y'all, the people in the religious community and the people in the scientific community, a lot of them are working together, okay? And they're helping each other come up with, truth. That's how we get it. But in the public, what they do is make us think that they're separate. But in the ancient world, and even up to the medieval period, the spiritual community and the scientific community, a lot of them work together. So to give you like an example of what I'm talking about, in the movie Interstellar, basically, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there was a scene where the man was, of course, he was traveling through space and, he was in a spaceship, of course, but it got to a point where, he was alone. And in the spaceship he was approaching, I think it was called Gargantuan, but it was this massive, massive, massive black hole. And, they were trying to figure out what was on the other side of it. But the black hole is very, very terrifying. So what ended up happening was that as he got closer to the black hole, of course, it started to strip away all the impurities. It stripped away, his spaceship. And then the only thing that was there was his body. And then it was almost like he thought he was just floating in space, but he was going through the black hole. And as he was traveling through the black hole, his body was starting to be stretched and the impurities were starting to be stripped away, right? But it got to a point where when he went through the black hole, he started to see all the potential realities of his entire life. And he also saw like the past history of his life. So he was looking at his life almost like it was a movie. And, imagine like when you look at, like, let's say a DVD or something, and when you press pause and how at the bottom of the screen, it'll show you the different selections and frames of each of the scenes in the movie. Because that's all a visual production is. It's just a series of frames simultaneously, moving in one footage or one visual. That's how they do anime, like cartoons. Like I can remember watching something with Walt Disney when he first created Snow White, but basically like what we call motion picture and like my production niggas out there, y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, in the movie Interstellar, the guy saw like his life in that type of breakdown, right? Like visual by visual, scene by scene. And by him being able to do that, of course, he was able to communicate with his daughter and, provided her the mathematical equation she needed so they could figure out really what the black hole was. And once he continued going through the black hole, he ended up on the other side of the black hole, and he was living by a hospitable planet. He basically just woke back up in his body, resumed consciousness, and long story short, everything was okay, right? But prior to that, going into that black hole, it was very, very scary. It was frightful. It was like going through, pure darkness. And there was a lot of fear because you didn't really know how things were going to turn out, which is very similar to how our life is here. So this is ultimately what I want to give you of what the black hole is symbolic of, not only in certain esoteric traditions, occultic traditions, religious traditions, science, but the black hole is symbolic for a lot of things. And what it's symbolic of is birth, of the creation, the life process, and then, of course, the end or the death process. So think about you yourself. When you were growing in your mother's womb, inside of your mother's body, it was dark and it was a void. And at first you were formless. Just like it says in Genesis, when the Almighty created what we'll call the material universe, that it was dark, formless, and void. But in that darkness, the creative intelligence starts to form the organisms or form the creation itself. And that's what's happening inside your mother's womb. That's why in masonry, at the higher levels of masonry, the womb of the woman is how Solomon's temple, aka the physical body, is constructed. So that's one of the symbols in it. This is also why you may see a lot of symbols of the so-called Black Madonna and quote unquote baby Jesus or the child, because that's symbolic of, multiple things, but the dark womb, the black hole, and how it births a star. Okay. It births a star. So the same way how we started in our mother's womb and it was dark and we were formed, and then we were born and we went into the light. And that's what we are right now. We're in the light. We're in the creation. Here we go through our life organism process where we're here to meet our objective, our intention, right? And, God willing, we make the right choices and we fulfill everything in this life. And then what will happen is that the Almighty will say, it's time now to transition. And then the physical body will cease to exist. And what may happen at that point? Do I know for certain? No, because no one's come back to tell me. And am I ready to go see right now? Absolutely not. But I'm just telling you what I think. But what may come after this is that if the darkness is what led us to the creative light, then the darkness is what has to lead us to whatever comes after this. So since we're in the light right now, when you cease to exist, you got to go through another like black hole or another darkness type of phase. I think that's just part of the creative process. So when we're in this life and you have challenges like poverty or, maybe a person is born with so-called special needs, and a lot of the other things that, come with this life that we may look at as a challenge and makes it not perfect, because everybody has something in their life that makes them not perfect. Some of it is obvious and some of it may not be, but the individual knows. Even if a person is wealthy and got a bunch of money, trust me, it's something about their life that makes it not perfect. You just think that it is because they got money. But whatever your challenge is here, that's kind of like a training ground that I think maybe the Almighty allows, because you're going to have to go back through that darkness and that void again. And it's going to create a lot of fear. It's going to be a lot of uncertainty and it's going to be unknown. All right. And the living organism, the human being, just being real, we don't do good with the unknown because we're impatient. Remember, we're not perfect. So a lot of these life challenges here, they seem like they serve as like somewhat of a training ground, to help us build up that endurance, that internal endurance. Because if my calculation is correct, when the physical body ceases to exist, you're going to have to go through some other form of darkness or black hole like situation. And it's going to strip away all your impurities, meaning your ego, meaning all the attachments that you probably had to this life, etc. That's why we gotta gain everything in this life and, experience, the good potential reality that may have been set for us. Because when a lot of people leave this life and they may have not gotten that opportunity to do that, I don't know, but, I don't know if their soul may be in some type of maybe turmoil or resentment. In other words, you don't know what kind of impressions may be on that person's soul energy. So they may not be able to go through the black hole fully, because trust me, if you're holding on to your ego or you're holding on to some kind of attachment that you had in this physical world, you're not going to fully be able to go through the black hole. If you're holding on to something, like, you got to fully let go of everything, because it strips everything. So this is just something to think about and, contemplate on when you in your own privacy. But yeah, that's what it is. The Almighty knows that your life on earth is going to be challenging, and it is your test. And I've basically done everything that I need to do and that you need me to do, whether we know it or not. Anything we could pray for, it's already on a particular road that is a desired potential reality that already exists. It's just about us making the right choices. So it'd be something like, listen, I'm gonna give you this example and then I'm gonna close the video. So it may be, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you a woman and you want to start your own, salon, or maybe you do hair or something like that, right? And like that may be what you're here to do. You know what I'm saying? That may be something that your soul is just here to express whatever talent or skill it have, and that's going to be exhibited as you maybe being a hairdresser, right? So that's your purpose, right? And let's say that you had some friends that wanted to hang out, and let's say they wanted to go hang out somewhere that you really don't have no business going. It don't serve you no purpose, and you just shouldn't be there, right? And let's say you make the choice to say, you know what, nah, I'm good. Y'all go ahead. I'm going to just sit back and chill, right? So let's say you at home and you just kicking it, right? Because you didn't go hang out with the friends. And let's say out of nowhere, you're going to get a sensation of, man, I'm going to go to the gas station real quick and, get, you know what I'm saying, some incense, let's say. Let's say you're going to go to the gas station to get some incense, right? So you went to the gas station to get these incense, but while you in there, you meet another person at the cash register, basically, you know what I'm saying, who like, your hairstyle or something like that. And then you may let that person know, oh, I do hair. And then that person's going to tell you, like, oh, that's interesting. I have my own hair lotion company, or I have a company where we create shampoo or something like that, right? So let's say you and that person strike up a conversation. And then next thing you know, now you've created a business relationship where you get in the shampoo and the hair oil and whatever other products they have. And you're using that for your business to do the women hair or do whoever's hair you're doing, right? So what I mean is that when you made that choice not to go and hang out, that opened up the door for the potential reality for you meeting that person at the gas station who had the hair products that go exactly with what you wanted to do. So what I'm telling you is that the Almighty already created a reality where that existed for you, but you weren't going to be able to receive it and experience that had you not decided to go with your friends. See, had you decided to go out with your friends, then you would have experienced something else. So that's why I gave the Lynn Bias example. Let's learn from that brother's situation. You know what I'm saying? At the very least, he probably will want us to learn from that. Had Lynn Bias not, took the drugs that night and was partying, and had he said, you know what, y'all, I just got drafted to the league. Yeah, we excited and stuff like that, but man, I'm about to go home and go to bed so I can keep training and so I'm right. And let's say Lynn Bias didn't go party that night and he just went home. Who knows what history would have been? You know what I'm saying? Who knows what the Most High has set aside for him? So that's what I meant by that. See, the Most High knows that we have the power to fuck up our own lives. I'm just gonna say it like that. The Most High knows we have the ability to screw up our own lives. And he don't want us to do that. You see? So that's what I'm saying. Like, the faith, it goes both ways. Yeah, you have faith that, you're going to persevere, and you have faith in, that God got your back. And I understand that. But I think it's time for us to graduate and advance our thought process. We don't need to start looking at it like, I'm going to pray and ask God for something as if God don't know I want it or need it. We need to start moving as if it already exists on that road, and I just have to make the appropriate choices that will unlock that reality for me. It already exists, so that means that there's nothing for me to ask for. It's almost like the Easter egg hunts. You know what I'm saying? I know that's some pagan shit, but I remember my aunts used to have me running around doing that when I was young. But that the Easter eggs are already in the yard with the candy in them. It's just about, am I going to make the right choices to find them and unlock the treasure? So whether you land biased and you want to be an NBA champion, whether you're a young, melanated American woman and you want to own your own hair salon, whatever it is, it's still going to boil down to the choices that we have to make using our own free will appropriately. So just think about that, man, and stay tuned. We out.